Hi, I'm Hannah, and I'm here with Dr. Tracy Blaize, and we're going to ask her some questions on mental health.
Awesome.
So, what has been your experience with mental illness?
So, me personally, I don't really have a lot of experience with mental illness. However, people in my family have. In 2012, I lost my brother to suicide. So, that has shaped a big part of my life.
So you really answered, have you ever been diagnosed with anything at all?
I have not. My brother, he was not diagnosed either. So one of my great regrets is that my brother didn't know that there was help out there and that we didn't realize how bad things were for him and the struggles that he was going through in time to help him.
So that was a nice question. Did someone in your family have mental illness?
Yes. So my brother struggled, I would say, even from the time he was a little kid. We didn't recognize it for what it was. He was the kind of kid that when my grandparents visited and it was time for them to leave, he'd run and hide. He'd just disappear. And we didn't realize at the time that it was hard for him to say goodbye. You know, he just took it at that. But for him, that was a coping mechanism so that he didn't have to say goodbye and he didn't have to feel sad. And then when he was in high school, he, unbeknownst to us, started drinking. So he self-medicated with alcohol for many years. And in the end, that's pretty much what happened to him, is the alcohol got the better of him.
So how did you get help, or did he get help?
So he did not get help, which then resulted in his suicide. But after the fact, for me, the way I cope with things is I study them. So I dove really deep into mental health, into suicide prevention, and I became a QPR instructor for a while, which was really the only time that I've shared my brother's story publicly, is when I was teaching the Question, Persuade, Refer program. And so for me, that's what I have to do. I have these little compartments within myself, I think, is how I handle my mental health. And there's a place for work, there's a place for pain, there's a place for everything. So that's how I handle it.
You really answered the next question, which was, did you see a professional or take any medicine for it?
I did not. My daughter, though, does suffer from depression and anxiety. And I think part of what I went through with my brother helped me to recognize that much earlier. And so she has gotten counseling and she has been medicated for that. So it really gives you a lot more empathy for people and a little understanding of all the things people go through that you can't see. There's so many invisible things.
So did someone help you navigate into the next steps that you took?
Yes and no. I think there was a lot of support. You know, everybody that loves you comes out of the woodwork in those kind of times. You have a large community that sometimes you don't realize you have until something terrible happens. I didn't seek professional help. A few years ago, when my grandmother was in hospice care, the hospice people were asking me, you know, tell us about your family history and what kinds of things you've gone through. And so I started with my brother in 2012. My dad was diagnosed with ALS and then passed away in 2015. My father-in-law passed away in 2019. My mother fought breast cancer in between there. There were a whole lot of things, and that then led to my grandmother, and the hospice worker just looked at me with these big eyes like, you know, you might want to talk to somebody. But I didn't feel the need to at that point in time.
So how did your church friends help you?
So my church relationship was a little strained at the point of my brother's suicide. I was raised in the Catholic Church. I still participate in the Catholic Church. And in the past, the Catholic Church has not been open to mental health issues. They basically, suicide was a sin that condemned you to hell. And so for the first year that after my brother died, I couldn't even enter my church. I would try I'm going to cry. I would try each Sunday to go to Mass, and I would get to the parking lot and try and get out of my car, and I'd just start crying because I felt like the church turned against my brother and therefore wasn't really supporting me. In that time, the priest was still calling me and checking on me, and my church friends were calling and checking on me, but I just physically couldn't go into church. And I think what finally turned that for me was hearing our Pope start talking about mental health issues, and that, you know, depression is a real thing. It's not a sin. It's not something to be ashamed of. It happens. So it took a while, almost a year, I think, before I could get back to going to church, but I'm back and I'm regular now.
Okay, so what did you wish someone had told you that you want to make sure that you tell the youth today?
Well, I can tell you that I felt, and still do sometimes, a lot of guilt about my brother, wishing that I had recognized the signs. I mean, at that point I was a middle school principal. I dealt with kids that had depression. Why didn't I see it in my own brother? But it's not my fault, and I want other people to know it's not their fault. Um, Keep reaching out, keep trying, keep asking the questions, keep asking them to get help and leading them to those resources. But in the end, it's a step that somebody has to take for themselves.
Is there anything else that you would like to share today?
I just want to thank you for inviting me and thank the Methodist Church for doing this. I've checked out your website. It is awesome. I love that mental health has become something that we can talk about, because it did used to be. You know, I think if it happened 20 years past, maybe I wouldn't come out and talk in public about what happened to my brother. But I think it's important that I do that now, so that we're just open about it and realize that everybody has chinks in their armor and we're all here to help hold each other up and together.